I stood in front of my son's apartment, took a deep breath, and pressed the doorbell. A shadow flickered across the peephole, followed by a long silence. I pressed the bell again, this time adding 3 distinct knocks. "Who is it?" My daughter-in-law Jessica's annoyed voice came from inside. "It's me, Eleanor," I said, intentionally keeping my voice low, making myself sound like any other old woman. The door opened a crack. Jessica's perfectly made-up face appeared in the gap, her brow furrowed. "Mom? What are you doing here all of a sudden?" "I've retired, and I was thinking I'd come to the city and stay with you for a while," I said, tugging at the old coat I had specifically bought from a thrift store. A small suitcase sat by my feet. Jessica's eyes scanned me from head to toe, from my deliberately grayed hair down to my faded flats, finally landing on the tiny suitcase. I could see the calculation in her eyes. This old lady didn't look like she was carrying anything of value. "Michael, your mother's here," she called into the apartment, reluctantly pulling the door open. "Come on in." I dragged my suitcase into the apartment I had secretly helped pay for. The living room was much messier than the last time I'd visited. The coffee table was piled high with takeout containers and empty beer cans, and children's toys were scattered across the rug. Michael shuffled out of the bedroom, his t-shirt stained with something suspicious, his hair a mess. "Mom, why didn't you call first?" he asked, rubbing his eyes. There was no surprise in his voice, only the annoyance of being disturbed. "I wanted to surprise you," I said with a smile, trying to hide the sting in my heart. My son, the son I had poured everything into raising, was now looking at me like I was an unwelcome guest. "Grandma!" A bright, childish voice broke the awkwardness. My grandson, Leo, rushed out of his room and threw his arms around my waist. "Grandma, you really came." I knelt and hugged this little 8-year-old ray of sunshine tightly. "Yes, Grandma promised she'd come see you, remember?" "I remember. You said you'd teach me how to play chess." Leo pulled my hand excitedly. "I finished all my homework. Can we start now?" Jessica snorted. "Finished your homework? Did you memorize your spelling words? Did you check your math problems? All you think about is playing." Leo's shoulders immediately slumped. I gently squeezed his little hand. "Let Grandma get settled first, and I'll start teaching you tomorrow, okay?" "How long are you planning to stay?" Jessica asked bluntly, her arms crossed over her chest. I pretended not to hear the hostility in her tone. "I'll stay for a month and see how it goes, if you don't mind me being a bother." "The guest room is full of junk," Michael chimed in. "Why don't you sleep on the couch for now, Mom?" I glanced at the narrow sofa, piled high with clothes and clutter. "That's fine. I can help clean out the guest room." Jessica pursed her lips. "Whatever. You're on your own for dinner. We're ordering takeout," she added. "No need. I can cook," I said, rolling up my sleeves. "Is there any food in the fridge?" "It's empty," Jessica shrugged. "We usually just order in." I opened the refrigerator. It was indeed completely bare, except for a few cans of beer and an open jar of hot sauce. "Then I'll go to the supermarket and buy some groceries." "Turn right outside the building. There's a cheap market down the street," Michael said, already sitting back on the couch and picking up his phone. I nodded and left with my old wallet. Inside were only a few $20 bills, part of my carefully crafted image as a poor old woman. At the market, I chose the most common vegetables and a small tilapia. The vendors paid little attention to a shabby old woman like me, which suited me just fine. Back at my son's apartment, I tied on an apron and started preparing dinner. Leo leaned against the kitchen doorway watching me work. "Grandma, what you're cooking smells so good." "This is about all your grandma is good for," Jessica's voice carried from the living room, deliberately loud. "Never held a job her whole life, and now she's old and has to rely on her son." My hand paused for a moment, then I continued chopping the potatoes. Yes, in their eyes, I was just an unemployed, ordinary housewife. Michael's father had passed away early, and I had supported him through college by working odd jobs. What they didn't know was that those odd jobs were actually my career, working my way up from the bottom to a senior executive position at a major financial firm. For dinner, I made 4 dishes: baked tilapia, roasted potatoes, sautéed spinach, and a simple egg drop soup. Leo ate with gusto, and even Michael had 2 helpings. Only Jessica picked at her food, finding fault with every bite. The fish is too salty, the spinach is too tough to chew, and this soup tastes like dishwater, she complained while scrolling through her phone. I ate silently, observing this home I once thought would be my support in my old age. Michael just kept his head down and ate, occasionally mumbling agreement with his wife. Leo would sneak glances at me and wink, as if to comfort me. "Mom, how much is your pension?" Jessica suddenly asked. "Not much, a little over $1,000 a month," I said, deliberately leaving off a zero. "Tesk," Jessica rolled her eyes. "What can that little money do in the city? It's not even enough to cover the utility bills." Michael finally looked up. "Mom, since you're staying in the city, did you transfer your health insurance? We can't be paying for it if you get sick." "My health is fine. I won't be a burden to you," I said softly. "Easy for you to say." Jessica slammed her chopsticks down. "Who doesn't get sick when they're old? The hospital bills, the nursing fees, that'll all fall on us, won't it?" The bowl shattered on the floor, rice scattering everywhere. I was stunned, not expecting her to explode like that. "What are you looking at?" Jessica screamed, pointing her finger at my nose. "Look at you, living here for free and acting all high and mighty. I'm telling you, we're still paying off the mortgage on this place. We don't have spare cash to support a freeloader." Michael even slammed his half-eaten bowl of rice down on the table. "Mom, I have to say, you should have some shame. Do you have any idea how much pressure we're under?" Leo burst into tears with a wail. I stood up and calmly began to clear my own dishes. "Don't bother," Jessica sneered. "Get out tomorrow." I nodded, walked into the guest room that was my temporary space, and started packing my meager belongings. Leo followed me in, crying and hugging my leg. "Grandma, don't go." I knelt and held him. "Be good. Grandma will come see you again when I have time." 10 minutes later, I was standing at the door with my suitcase. Jessica stood with her arms crossed, a cold smile on her face. Michael continued to play on his phone without even looking up. "Before I go, I have one more thing to say," I said. I took out my phone, opened my banking app, and turned the screen towards them. "This is my pension account balance." Jessica glanced at it dismissively at first, then her eyes widened in shock. Michael looked up too, his expression shifting from confusion to utter disbelief. "Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands." Jessica's voice began to tremble. $3,720,000, I said calmly. "And this is just the pension account. My other assets total around $20 million. The room fell deathly silent. Even Leo stopped crying. "Mom, you." Michael stood up, his face looking as if it had been struck by lightning. "I just wanted to see, if I had nothing, whether my own son would give me a place to stay," I said, putting my phone away. "Now I have my answer." I turned and pushed the door open. Behind me, I heard Jessica's shriek. "Mom, wait, we didn't know. We can explain." I didn't look back. I walked into the elevator and pressed the button for the ground floor. Just as the doors were closing, I heard Michael's desperate cry, "Mom, don't go." Outside the building, I hailed an Uber. "The Sterling Tower on the Gold Coast," I told the driver. That was my real home, a multi-million-dollar high-rise luxury condo. My phone began to vibrate incessantly, call after call from Michael. I declined them all, then sent a single text message. "Be at the Sterling Tower, apartment 1802, at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning to talk." After sending the text, I turned off my phone, leaned back against the seat, and closed my eyes. The tears finally fell, silent and bitter. This was a test I had desperately hoped to fail. The fingerprint lock at the Sterling Tower, apartment 1802, recognized my print, and the door slid open silently. I stepped into the 2,000-square-foot luxury apartment and tossed my small suitcase onto the imported leather sofa. Beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, the entire city's lights spread out before me, a stark contrast to the dim lighting in my son's apartment. I took off the old coat, pulled a silk robe from the closet, and drew a hot bath. An aromatherapy diffuser by the tub released a faint scent of lavender, but I couldn't relax. When I closed my eyes, my son's words, "You should have some shame," twisted in my heart like a knife. I turned my phone back on. 23 missed calls, all from Michael. A dozen text messages, ranging from initial apologies to final pleas. I didn't reply. Instead, I sent a message to my private lawyer, Arthur Chen. Bring the files on Michael's company. Be here at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. After my bath, I stood before the windows, looking down at the city nightlife. 28 years ago, holding a 1-month-old Michael, I had stood at the window of our old, crumbling company dormitory, looking at these same city lights. My husband had just died in a work accident, and the compensation from the factory was pitiful. But I had sworn to give my son the best possible future. It took me 20 years to go from a workshop clerk to a senior executive at a financial firm. All those nights working overtime, all those times male colleagues scoffed that women didn't understand finance, all those evenings I had to leave a feverish Michael home alone, it was all for this. And what had I gotten in return? The doorbell rang. Who could it be this late? The security monitor showed Arthur's face. I opened the door. He hurried in, carrying a briefcase. Eleanor, it seems the results of your little test were less than ideal. Sit, I said, gesturing to the sofa. I need the latest on Michael's company. Arthur took a folder from his briefcase. It's worse than we thought. His renovation company's cash flow is gone. He's 3 months behind on payroll, and 2 projects have stalled. If he can't secure $200,000 in working capital by next week, he'll likely have to declare bankruptcy. Do you have a list of his creditors? Mainly building material suppliers and the bank, Arthur said, pushing up his glasses. The most difficult one is the $80,000 debt to Croft Enterprises. You know what Julian Croft is like. I sneered. Julian Croft, a notorious shark in the industry, known for preying on small businesses. Look into Croft's cash flow for the past 6 months, especially any dealings with Michael's competitors. You suspect something? Michael doesn't have the clout to get on Croft's bad side on his own. Someone must be setting him up. I rubbed my temples. When they arrive tomorrow, you'll be here to observe. After Arthur left, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. At 3 in the morning, I went to my study and opened the safe. On the top shelf was a yellowed medical file. Michael had suffered a sudden case of meningitis when he was 12. I had stood vigil outside the ICU for 3 days and 3 nights, signing 7 separate critical condition notices. I had sworn then that I would never let my son suffer again. Now, it seemed, I had overprotected him. At 9 o'clock sharp, Arthur arrived. We had just finished discussing our strategy when the doorbell rang. On the monitor, Michael was dressed in a sharp suit, Jessica was in a designer dress, and even Leo was wearing a little blazer. They were a world away from the people I had seen last night. I changed into some casual loungewear and had Arthur open the door. "Mom!" Michael cried, rushing in to hug me. I sidestepped him. Jessica's face was wreathed in smiles. "Mom, yesterday was all a misunderstanding. We didn't know you. You didn't know I had money," I finished with a cold smile. "If I didn't have money, then everything you said last night was what you truly felt, right?" Leo ran over and hugged my leg. "Grandma, Daddy, and Mommy had a huge fight last night. They were yelling really loud." Jessica yanked Leo back. "Honey, don't say such things." Then she turned back to me with a fawning smile. "Mom, we were so blind. Please don't hold it against us younger folks." I looked at Michael. "I hear your company is in trouble." His face changed. "How? How did you know?" "Answer me." It's a small problem," he stammered. "Just a cash flow issue. I need $200,000. $200,000? Michael's eyes widened. You're willing to help me?" I didn't answer. Instead, I turned to Arthur. "Show him the documents." Arthur produced a file. "This is a loan agreement. $200,000 at an annual interest rate of 8% for a term of 1 year. The collateral will be 51% of your company's shares." Michael's face went from red to white. "Mom, you're trying to take over my company." "You don't have to sign," I said calmly. Jessica snatched the papers and scanned them. "Mom, we're family. Why do we need to be so formal? You only have one son. Everything will be his eventually anyway. Sign it or don't." "It's up to you," I said, rising and walking to the balcony. "Arthur will handle the details." They argued in the living room for half an hour. In the end, with a trembling hand, Michael signed his name. As they were leaving, Jessica tried to curry favor again. "Mom, when are you coming home to live with us? I'll prepare the best room for you." "That won't be necessary. I'm quite comfortable here." After closing the door, Arthur shook his head. "Eleanor, why go through all this trouble? Why not just help him directly?" "Help him directly?" I gave a bitter laugh. "Then he'll never grow up." That afternoon, I changed into casual clothes and went to the local community center. Since retiring, I'd been volunteering here, teaching financial literacy to seniors. No one knew I was a former finance executive. They just knew me as a somewhat educated retired lady. Today's topic was preventing financial scams. I had just finished my presentation when a familiar voice spoke up. "Excuse me, are those high-yield investment platforms really something to avoid?" I looked up and saw a face I hadn't seen in years, Clara. She had been my assistant, but she quit 5 years ago after her husband cheated on her and they divorced. I'd lost touch with her since. She looked much older, the lines around her eyes deeper than I remembered. She was wearing a cheap shirt and washed-out jeans. "Miss Pett," I almost blurted out her name. "Generally speaking, you should be wary of anything promising returns over 8%. She stared at me for a few seconds, then her eyes widened in recognition. "Elian." I gave a slight shake of my head, and she immediately understood. "The lady is right. I'll be careful." After the class, we met in the courtyard behind the center. "Miss Vance, is it really you?" Clara asked, grabbing my hand excitedly. "What are you?" "Retired. Just finding things to do," I said, looking her over. "And you? Are you doing okay?" Her smile vanished. "I haven't been able to find a steady job since the divorce. I've been working odd jobs to support my daughter. Last month, our landlord raised the rent, and we were almost on the street." "How old is your daughter?" 8. "She goes to the same school as Leo." She suddenly remembered something. "Oh, in fact, Leo and Maya were on cleanup duty together yesterday." "It's a small world," I said, thinking for a moment. "A friend of mine has a company that's hiring for IT support. The pay isn't amazing, but it's stable. Are you interested?" Clara's eyes reddened. "Miss Vance, Don't call me Miss Vance." "Here, I'm just Eleanor," I said, patting her hand. "Bring your resume to the Starbucks in the financial district at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'll introduce you." On the way home, I had my driver take a detour to the neighborhood where Clara lived. It was a run-down tenement building, the hallways cluttered with junk, the paint peeling from the walls. The thought of her and her daughter living in a place like this made my heart ache. That evening, Michael called, his tone sycophantic. "Mom, I got the money. Thank you so much. Jessica wants to invite you over for dinner tomorrow. She's going to cook herself." "I have an appointment tomorrow," I said coolly. "Maybe next week." After hanging up, I opened my laptop and searched for Croft Enterprises' recent transactions. Sure enough, I found it. Last month, Julian Croft had entered into a strategic partnership with a company called Morgan Renovations, and the owner of Morgan Renovations was none other than Michael's biggest competitor, Derek Morgan. Too much of a coincidence. I called Arthur. "Check the relationship between Derek Morgan and Julian Croft, and have someone keep an eye on Michael's company." The next day, I met Clara at Starbucks and introduced her to my friend in reality, the CEO of a tech company I was the majority shareholder of. The interview went surprisingly well. Although Clara hadn't worked formally in 5 years, she had been teaching herself to code, and her technical skills were even better than before. "You can start next Monday, $72,000 a year, with full benefits." The HR manager offered her the job on the spot. Clara was so excited she could barely speak. "Eleanor, I don't know how to thank you. Working hard is the best way to thank me," I said with a smile. "By the way, who picks up Maya from school?" "Usually, I ask a neighbor for help, but she's moving away next week." Clara trailed off. "I have a small, empty apartment near Leo's school. You can stay there for now. I'll deduct the rent from your salary." I didn't give her a chance to refuse. "It's settled. You can move today." Clara and Maya had so few belongings that everything fit into a single taxi. The apartment was small but clean and bright. As soon as Maya walked in, she cheered, "Mommy, we have a new home." Watching the little girl dance around the room, I thought of Michael when he was a child. We lived in a basement back then, but he would cover the damp walls with chalk drawings of the Sunday, Grandma Eleanor. Maya suddenly ran up to me. Are you Leo's grandma? Yes, I am. Are you and Leo friends? Maya nodded vigorously. Leo said he misses you a lot. He said his daddy won't let him call you. Clara quickly interrupted. Maya, don't say such things. I knelt to be at eye level with Maya. What else did Leo say? He said his mommy and daddy fight all the time at night. They said now that Grandma has money, they have to get Grandma to come back, Maya repeated innocently. Clara looked mortified. Miss Vance, she's just a child, she doesn't know. Call me Eleanor, I corrected her. Then I said to Maya, from now on, why don't you and Leo come over to Grandma's place to do your homework after school? I have lots of picture books. Really? That's great, Maya cheered. As I was leaving, Clara walked me to the elevator, hesitating. If you want to say something, just say it, I said, pressing the button. Miss Eleanor. She bit her lip. Michael. He doesn't know you. He doesn't know how much money you have. I gave a bitter smile. It's precisely because I have too much money that I raised a son like him. The elevator arrived. I stepped inside, looking at Clara's worried face. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Take good care of Maya and don't be late on Monday. As the doors closed, I let out a long breath. Helping Clara had lifted my spirits. At least there was still someone in the world who understood gratitude. Back home, I opened my laptop and pulled up the live feed from the security cameras I'd had installed in Michael's office. For a $200,000 loan, a little surveillance wasn't too much to ask, was it? On the screen, Michael was in his office, flirting with a young, heavily made-up woman. Her hand was on his thigh. I turned off the feed and sent a message to Arthur. Find out who Michael's personal assistant is. I took a screenshot of the woman and sent it. This woman, less than half an hour later, Arthur replied. Tiffany Miller, 25 years old, hired 3 months ago. Previously, an administrator at Morgan Renovations. She's Derek Morgan's sister-in-law. Just as I thought. I let out a cold laugh. My foolish son being played for a complete fool, and he didn't even know it. Monday morning, I arrived at the community center half an hour early. Last week's financial literacy class had been well received, and the center's director, Mr. Davis, wanted me to add more sessions. Mrs. Vance, having you teach here is such a blessing for our center, Mr. Davis said, rubbing his hands together. After last week's class, several seniors told me they finally understand how their pensions work. It's my pleasure, I said, accepting the new schedule. Today, I'll be talking about family financial planning. By the way, Mr. Davis lowered his voice. A Mr. Croft has been asking about you. He said he's very interested in the course and wants to invest in our center. My heart skipped a beat. Mr. Croft? Full name? Julian Croft. A big-shot owner of a construction supply company, Mr. Davis said, his face full of awe. I never thought we'd attract someone of his stature to our little place. I clutched my teaching notes tightly. When is he coming? He said this afternoon. Before Mr. Davis could finish, there was a commotion at the entrance. Several staff members were gathered around a well-dressed, middle-aged man. It was Julian Croft himself. Mrs. Vance, a pleasure to finally meet you, Croft said, striding over and extending his hand. I never expected to run into you here. I reluctantly shook his hand. Mr. Croft is interested in community education too? Giving back to the community, you know? He said with a wide smile, but his eyes were as cold as a snake's. Especially getting to hear a lecture from the legendary Eleanor Vance. Mrs. Vance. It's truly an honor. He knew who I was. I maintained my smile. You're too kind, Mr. Croft. I'm just a retired old woman. Not at all. Everyone in the industry knows the stories of your legendary career, Croft said, leaning in closer and lowering his voice. I wonder if I might have the honor of buying you a cup of coffee. There are a few things I'd like to ask your advice on. Mr. Davis stood by, his jaw on the floor. I glanced at my watch. I can spare 20 minutes after class. Croft stepped back, satisfied. Then I shall wait. I was distracted throughout the entire class, constantly trying to figure out Croft's motives. The moment the class ended, he eagerly approached me. "That was wonderful, Mrs. Vance. I've reserved a table at the tea house next door." In the tea house, Croft personally poured me a cup of tea. "Mrs. Vance, let's not beat around the bush. I can help with your son's company." "Oh?" I took a sip of tea. "How so? That $80,000 debt?" "I'll wipe it clean," he said, his eyes narrowing. "All you have to do is take your hands off that parcel of land on the east side." So that was it. The East Side land development was the last project I had managed before I retired. It was now being developed by a company I secretly controlled. Croft had been trying to get a piece of it for months. "You must be mistaken, Mr. Croft," I said, putting down my cup. "My son's affairs have nothing to do with me. As for the East Side project, I'm just a retired old woman now." "Why play dumb, Mrs. Vance?" Croft sneered. "Who do you think gave Michael that $200,000? Who do you think holds 51% of his company's shares?" My heart pounded. How could he know that? "There are no secrets in business, Mrs. Vance," Croft said, as if reading my mind. "Derek Morgan's sister-in-law is practically living in Michael's pocket." I suppressed my rage. "So you came here today to threaten an old woman?" No, Croft said, his smile returning. "I came here to propose a partnership. You help me get the East Side project, and I'll guarantee your son's company thrives. Otherwise, what? Otherwise, tomorrow, creditors will file to freeze all of your son's company assets, including that 51% stake." Croft leaned in, his breath smelling of alcohol. "You don't want to see your son go bankrupt, do you?" I stood up. "The tea was nice. Thank you for your hospitality." As soon as I left the tea house, I called Arthur. "Find out how far things have gone between Michael and Tiffany Miller, and investigate every connection Julian Croft has to the East Side project." After hanging up, I saw a text from Clara. "Eleanor, I've started my new job. The company is great, and Maya loves our new home. Thank you." Attached was a photo of Maya doing her homework at a small desk. The picture calmed me down. Business is war, but I was no longer the same Eleanor Vance. I now had a more important battlefield: my family. At 4 o'clock that afternoon, I was waiting at the school gate as planned. Maya ran out first. "Grandma Eleanor." Then came Leo. His eyes lit up when he saw me, but then he shrank back, glancing at Jessica, who was standing behind him. Jessica was unusually pleasant today. "Mom, you came to pick up Leo. That saves me a trip." She pushed Leo towards me. "I made pot roast for dinner tonight. Why don't you join us?" "No, thank you. I'm taking the children to my place," I said, my tone cool. "I'll bring Leo back tonight." A flicker of annoyance crossed Jessica's face, but it was quickly replaced by a smile. "That's fine too. Leo, you be good and listen to your grandma, okay?" Leo nodded timidly. As soon as Jessica was gone, he threw himself into my arms. "Grandma, I missed you so much." I held one child's hand in each of mine as we walked to the car. Maya chattered away about her day at school, while Leo held on to my hand tightly, as if afraid I would disappear. Back at my apartment, as I was preparing snacks while the two children did their homework, Leo suddenly asked, "Grandma, Dad said you're really rich. Is that true?" My hand trembled, and I almost spilled the milk. "What else did your dad say?" He said we have to make you happy, so you'll give us your money," Leo said, looking down. "My mommy said you have to love someone for who they are, not for their money," Maya piped in. A wave of warmth washed over me. I pulled both children into a hug. "Maya's right. You should love a person for who they are, not for their money." Leo looked up at me. "Grandma, I love you, and it's not because of your money." My eyes welled up. "I know, sweetie. Grandma knows." When I took Leo home that evening, Jessica enthusiastically invited me in. The apartment was spotless. There were fresh flowers on the dining table, and Michael was standing by, dressed in a suit, like a soldier awaiting inspection. "Mom, I've done a lot of thinking," Michael began, wringing his hands. "I was so immature before." I cut him off. "Leo, go to your room and finish your homework." Once the child had left, I looked directly at Michael. "Who is Tiffany Miller?" The color drained from Michael's face. "How? How did you know? Julian Croft paid me a visit, I said coldly. He knows everything about you and Derek Morgan's sister-in-law. Jessica shrieked. Michael, you told me you broke it off with her. Michael stammered. Not only did he not break it off, he gave that woman $10,000, I added. From the company account. Jessica grabbed a vase and threw it at Michael. Divorce. I can't live like this anymore. I turned and left, the sounds of their violent argument and Leo's crying following me out the door. I closed the door, took a deep breath, and sent a message to Arthur. Prepare divorce papers. Jessica might need them. The next day, Clara called, her voice trembling. Eleanor, the company suddenly gave me a raise and my own office. Was that you? Your abilities earned it? I said. I was watching the security feed from Michael's company. He was currently in a hushed conversation with Tiffany Miller about something. Just focus on your work and don't overthink it. After hanging up, I zoomed in on the feed, reading Michael's lips. My mom's money. Find a way. Tiffany Miller smiled and nodded, then handed him a USB drive. I immediately called the IT department of the tech company. Check Michael Vance's company for any unusual data transfers recently. Half an hour later, the results were in. The company's core client database had been copied in its entirety the night before. The computer used for the transfer was logged in under Michael's account. I sneered. My dear son, willing to sell out his own company for money. Julian Croft showed up at my financial literacy class again that afternoon, sitting in the back row, a smirk on his face. After class, he blocked my path. Have you considered my offer, Mrs. Vance? You have some nerve, Mr. Croft, I said, looking him straight in the eye. Having Derek Morgan's sister-in-law seduce my son to steal business secrets. Croft was unfazed. Business is war. Didn't you use a honey trap or two in your day, Mrs. Vance? I'll give you 3 days, I said in a low voice. Withdraw the debt claim against my son's company. Otherwise. Otherwise what? Croft asked, his tone challenging. Otherwise, the evidence of you misappropriating pension funds will be on the SEC's desk tomorrow morning, I said, holding up my phone, which displayed a photo of him in a secret meeting with a certain official from the Social Security Administration. The color drained from Croft's face. How? How did you? There are no secrets in business, I said, throwing his own words back at him before turning and walking away. That evening, I arranged to meet with Jessica alone. She arrived with red, swollen eyes and immediately started crying about all of Michael's transgressions. Do you want a divorce? I asked directly. Jessica was taken aback. If you divorce him, I can guarantee you get full custody of Leo and a fair settlement, I said, handing her a folder. But on one condition. Jessica wiped her tears. What condition? Tell me the truth, I said, staring into her eyes. Did you and Michael genuinely want to repair your relationship with me, or did you just want my money? Jessica's lips trembled. Finally, she broke down, sobbing. I was wrong, Mom. We were in so much debt, and Michael said if we could just make you happy. I had expected it, but hearing it confirmed still felt like a knife to the heart. I took back the folder. I have the divorce papers ready. It's up to you whether you sign them or not. Back home, I opened the safe and took out a photo of my late husband. Oh, Frank, I whispered. Did I do the wrong thing? How did our son turn into this? In the photo, my husband was smiling, just as he had 20 years ago. We were poor then, but at least we had love. The morning sun streamed through the sheer curtains into the bedroom. I woke early and checked my phone. There was a new message from Arthur. Julian Croft had withdrawn the debt claim against Michael's company overnight, but now Derek Morgan was making a move. I replied, continue surveillance, especially on Tiffany Miller. Today was Wednesday, and I was scheduled to pick up Leo and Maya from school. But at 10 in the morning, Clara called, her voice frantic. Eleanor, Maya has a high fever. The school sent her to the hospital. I had my driver take me to the hospital immediately. In the emergency room, Maya was lying on a gurney, her face flushed, while Clara stood by, wringing her hands and crying. What did the doctor say? I asked, feeling Maya's hot forehead. They suspect pneumonia. She needs to be admitted for observation, Clara said. her voice choked with tears. It's all my fault. I was working late last night and didn't notice she kicked off her blankets. I glanced around the crowded emergency room, then took out my phone and made a call. 10 minutes later, the hospital's vice president personally came down. Mrs. Vance, please don't worry. We'll arrange for a VIP room immediately. Clara stared at me, shocked. Eleanor. I'll explain later, I said, patting her hand. Let's just take care of Maya first. An hour later, Maya was moved to a spacious private room and was being attended to by the head of pediatrics. Clara sat by the bed, looking bewildered. Eleanor, who are you, really? I used to work in finance. I have some connections, I said dismissively. You just stay here and be with Maya. I'll take care of things with your company. After getting them settled, I rushed to the school to pick up Leo. Jessica was already there. When she saw me, her expression was complicated. Mom, about yesterday. Maya's in the hospital. I'm taking Leo to see her, I said, cutting off her apology. Have you thought about the divorce? Jessica looked down. I'm still thinking. Leo ran out. When he heard Maya was sick, he was frantic. I want to see Maya. She's my best friend. At the hospital, Maya's fever had broken, and she was sleeping. Leo tiptoed to her bedside and placed his favorite dinosaur toy on her pillow. When you get better, we can play together. Clara was moved to tears. She pulled me out into the hallway. Eleanor, I don't know what to say. The hospital bills. I'll pay you back, I promise. Don't worry about that, I said, handing her a credit card. The hospital is billing everything to my account. Use this for any other expenses. The PIN is Maya's birthday. Clara refused to take it. I can't. You've already done too much. Consider it an employee benefit, I said, pressing it into her hand. Maya needs you. Don't be distracted by money. Just then, my phone rang. It was Michael. I stepped away to answer. What is it? Mom, it's bad, Michael said, his voice panicked. Derek Morgan is suing me for stealing trade secrets. The court is going to seize the company's assets. I had expected this. You did steal them, didn't you? There was a few seconds of silence on the other end. You knew. I know a lot more than you think, I said coldly, including Tiffany Miller's real identity. Mom, I was a fool, Michael said, his voice cracking. That bastard Derek set me up. Now Croft has backed off, and I have nowhere to turn. When is the court going to seize the assets? Tomorrow morning, Michael's voice trembled. Mom, you have to save me. Be at my apartment tonight at 8 o'clock. I hung up and went back into the hospital room. Leo was quietly telling a story to the sleeping Maya. Clara looked at me. Eleanor, is something wrong? Just some family matters, I said with a weak smile. You stay here with Maya tonight. I'll take Leo home with me. Grandma Eleanor. Leo suddenly looked up. Did Daddy make you angry again? Both Clara and I froze. Leo continued. Last night, I heard Mommy and Daddy fighting. Daddy said he was going to trick you out of your money. Clara stood up awkwardly. I'll go get some hot water. I knelt to look Leo in the eye. What else did you hear? Mommy said she was going to get a lawyer to prove that Grandma's mind is going. Leo bit his lip. Grandma, your mind isn't going, is it? My heart turned to ice. I couldn't believe they would stoop so low. I pulled Leo into a hug. Grandma is just fine, I said softly. Don't you worry. At 8 o'clock that evening, Michael arrived, his face pale, his suit rumpled, and smelling of alcohol. He fell to his knees the moment he walked in. Mom, save me. Get up, I said sharply. Solve your problems like a man. Stop kneeling all the time. Michael slumped onto the sofa and incoherently explained what had happened, how Derek had set him up, how Tiffany had seduced him, and how, in a moment of weakness, he had copied the client data. Now Derek is turning it around on me, saying I stole his company's secrets, Michael said, grabbing his hair. Once the court freezes my assets, I'm finished. Do you know why Julian Croft suddenly dropped his claim? I asked. Michael shook his head blankly. Because I got some leverage on him, I said with a sneer. Business is war, and you went to the gambling table without even knowing what cards your opponent was holding. Mom, I know I was wrong. Michael started crying again. Please, just help me this one last time. I can help you, I said, producing a folder. But there are conditions. Michael eagerly grabbed the folder. After reading the contents, his face paled. This is too much. 75% of the company's shares go to you, and I have to fire Tiffany? Not only that, I added. You have to accept a professional management team, and for the next 3 years, all major company decisions will require my approval. That's the same as just giving you the company. Michael stood up, furious. You can refuse, I said calmly, and wait for the court to seize everything tomorrow. Michael paced back and forth in the living room. Finally, he gritted his teeth and signed. Mom, you're heartless. Compared to what you've done to me, this is mercy, I said, taking the documents. Now, let's talk about how you and Jessica plan to prove my mind is going. Michael's face went white. How? How did you? Leo heard you, I said, staring into his eyes. Michael, I am your mother. And you. It was Jessica's idea. Michael quickly tried to shift the blame. She said if we could get a doctor to declare you senile, we could take control of your assets. A sharp pain shot through my chest. I had to grab the sofa to steady myself. This was the son I had worked so hard to raise. For money, he was willing to have his own mother committed. Get out, I said, pointing to the door. My lawyer will be in court tomorrow. Mom, you can't just leave me to die, Michael pleaded, falling to his knees again. I've saved you too many times, I said, pressing the security button to call the front desk. Now get out. After the building security escorted Michael away, I collapsed onto the balcony chair and stared blankly at the night sky. My phone rang. It was Clara. Eleanor. Maya's awake. She wants to talk to you. Grandma Eleanor. Maya's weak voice came through the phone. Thank you. Leo said you're the best grandma in the world. The tears finally came. You just rest, sweetie. Grandma will come see you tomorrow. After hanging up, I made a decision. I called Arthur. Prepare 2 sets of documents. One is the legal framework for establishing an educational foundation. The other is a plan for the bankruptcy and restructuring of Michael's company. The next morning, I went to the hospital. Maya was much better and was looking at a picture book with Leo. Clara pulled me aside. Eleanor, HR at my company said they're promoting me to a management position with double the salary. It's so sudden. Your abilities earned it, I said, patting her hand. By the way, are you interested in being my personal assistant? Clara's eyes widened. But I don't know anything. You're honest, hardworking, and you know what gratitude is. That's enough, I said with a smile. Think about it. No rush. I left the hospital and went straight to the courthouse. The bankruptcy hearing for Michael's company was in session. I was there as the primary creditor. When the judge announced the freezing of the company's assets, Michael's face was ashen. From the gallery, Derek Morgan and Tiffany Miller smiled triumphantly. During the recess, I deliberately walked past them. Tiffany pretended not to know me, while Derek said mockingly, "Well, old lady, your son is finished." "Is he?" I held up my phone, displaying a text conversation between him and Julian Croft, discussing how to split the profits. "Let's see who's finished first." Derek's face changed. He quickly pulled Tiffany away. Arthur walked over. "Eleanor, everything is ready. The foundation documents just need your signature." I carefully read through the papers. The New Hope Education Foundation. Initial funding of $20 million to support the education of children from single-parent families. Excellent. After signing, I sent a text to Clara. "Have you thought about it? The foundation needs an operations director." 3 minutes later, she replied, "If you'll have me, I'd be honored to try." Thank you for your trust. I walked out of the courthouse into the bright sunlight. Michael was slumped on the steps, his suit wrinkled, his tie askew. When he saw me, he staggered to his feet. "Mom, I'm finished." "No, you're just getting started," I said, handing him an envelope. Inside was a key to a small apartment and $10,000 in cash. "Start over, like a real man." Michael took the envelope with a trembling hand. "Mom, I'm sorry." "Don't say you're sorry." "Show me," I said, turning and walking away without looking back. The work to set up the foundation began in earnest. With Clara discharged from the hospital, Maya temporarily stayed with me. She and Leo went to and from school together every day, inseparable like brother and sister. After she found out Michael's company had gone bankrupt, Jessica's attitude underwent a subtle change. She stopped mentioning divorce and started showing up with homemade snacks, conveniently at times when Clara and Maya were also there. "Mom, look how cute Maya is," Jessica said one day, combing Maya's hair. "I've always wanted a daughter." Clara protectively pulled Maya closer. "Miss Miller, we should be getting home." "What's the rush?" Jessica's smile was strained. "It's been so long since I've had a chat with Mom." "Jessica," I said, getting straight to the point, "what is it you really want to say?" She put down the comb and suddenly knelt on the floor. "Mom, I know I was wrong. I was possessed before. Please forgive me. Leo can't be without a father." Maya, frightened, hid behind Clara. Leo just looked at his mother in confusion. "Mommy, why are you crying?" I had Clara take the children out of the room, then helped Jessica to her feet. "I can't help Michael. Adults have to be responsible for their own choices." "But," Jessica sobbed, "the creditors are at our door every day. Leo and I are afraid to even go home." I had anticipated this. "I have a small apartment on the west side. You can stay there for now." I handed her a debit card. "This has $5,000 a month for your basic expenses." Jessica took the card, her expression complicated. "Mom, why are you helping us?" "After everything Because Leo is my grandson," I said, looking her in the eye. "But remember, this is the last time." After Jessica left, I called Arthur. "Look into Michael's debts. Try to take care of the high-interest loans." That evening, Clara came over with a draft plan for the foundation. Watching her explain the details with such focus, I saw a reflection of my younger self. That same resilience, the willingness to do anything for one's child. "Eleanor, I think we can adjust this part of the budget." Clara pointed to a line item on the report. "You're the operations director now. It's your call," I said with a smile. She looked up, her eyes slightly red. "Eleanor, why are you being so good to me?" "Because you and Maya have shown me what real family is," I said, gazing out at the night sky. "That pure love, untainted by money." Clara was silent for a moment. Then she said suddenly, "Eleanor, there's something I've been meaning to tell you. About Michael." My heart tightened. "What is it?" "Yesterday, Maya said Leo was crying at school. He said his dad was going to take him to meet his new mom," Clara said cautiously. "I was worried Michael might be with Tiffany Miller." I finished with a sneer. "She's just Derek Morgan's pawn." "No, not her." Clara shook her head. "Maya said Leo mentioned an Auntie Vanessa." "Vanessa? A relative of Julian Croft?" I immediately called Arthur. "Check if Julian Croft has any sisters or female relatives who have been in contact with Michael recently." After hanging up, I noticed Clara hesitating again. "There's more." "Eleanor." "About the foundation. I'm so grateful, but..." She bit her lip. "I don't want you to think I'm doing this for the money." "I never thought that," I said, taking her hand. "From the day 5 years ago when you refused that kickback from a supplier, I knew what kind of person you were." Clara's eyes widened. You remember that?" "I remember every person who does the right thing," I said with a smile. "Now, help me look at this." I opened my laptop. On the screen was a business plan titled, "The New Hope Home, a mutual support community for single-parent families." "Oh my gosh," Clara gasped. "This is amazing. But the investment would be huge." "Money is not an issue," I said, clicking to the next slide. "The issue is, are you willing to be the project lead?" Clara was stunned, tears welling in her eyes. "Eleanor, Just then, the doorbell rang. The security monitor showed Michael, and standing beside him was, indeed, an unfamiliar woman. I had Clara go into the study. Then I opened the door. "Mom!" Michael forced a smile. "This is Vanessa, my friend. She's Julian Croft's niece." Vanessa was dressed in designer clothes, her makeup flawless. She extended a hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Vance. Michael talks about you all the time." I ignored her hand. What do you want? Mom. Vanessa works at a bank. She heard you were starting a foundation and wanted to offer some professional advice, Michael said, his eyes darting around. That won't be necessary. I have a professional team, I said coldly. Michael, has your company's bankruptcy liquidation been completed? Michael's face changed. Mom, not in front of a guest. What guest? I asked deliberately. Isn't this Miss Croft the candidate for your new mom? Vanessa took a step back, embarrassed. Michael, you didn't tell me your mother knew. Get out, I said, pointing to the door. Both of you. Michael's face suddenly twisted in anger. You old hag, I try to be nice and you spit in my face. It's an honor that a woman like Vanessa would even look at you. Vanessa pulled at his arm. Stop it, let's go. After they left, Clara came out of the study, looking worried. Eleanor. I'm fine, I said. In fact, I felt a sense of relief. I had finally seen my son's true colors. The next day, I met with Jessica and told her what had happened. After hearing the story, she was surprisingly calm. I already knew. And you? I was waiting for the right time, Jessica said, a look of determination in her eyes. Mom, I want to work with you. On what? The divorce case, Jessica said, pulling a USB drive from her purse. This has records of Michael and Vanessa staying in hotels, and proof that he was transferring assets. I want to fight for full custody of Leo. I took the USB drive. What changed your mind? Because I've seen Michael for who he really is, Jessica said with a bitter laugh. And I've also seen how genuinely you care for Maya and her mother. If something ever happens to me, I want to know Leo will have someone who truly loves him. I nodded. I'll arrange the lawyer. A week later, the New Hope Education Foundation was officially launched. At the press conference, I announced the initial investment of $20 million to support the education of children from single-parent families. Clara, as the operations director, made her debut and handled herself with grace and professionalism. In the audience, I saw Michael and Vanessa. Michael's face was dark, while Vanessa kept staring at Clara. After the press conference, Vanessa intercepted Clara. Miss Peterson, is it? I'm Vanessa Croft from City Commercial Bank. I was wondering if you'd be interested in discussing a partnership. Clara politely declined. I'm sorry, the foundation's financial partnerships are already in place. Vanessa sneered. Don't be so quick to refuse. I hear you have a lovely daughter. She's in the 2nd grade at Lincoln Elementary, isn't she? The color drained from Clara's face. I immediately stepped forward. Miss Croft, threatening someone is a criminal offense. Do I need to call the police? Vanessa stalked off, but I knew this wasn't over. That night, I hired extra security to protect Maya and Leo. Sure enough, Clara got a call from the school, saying a stranger had tried to pick up Maya but was stopped by security. It was Vanessa, Clara said, her whole body trembling. She would actually stoop to going after a child. I immediately called Arthur. Gather evidence. I'm suing Vanessa Croft for harassment and making threats. After hanging up, I looked out at the night sky and made a decision. It was time to end this. The next day, I met Julian Croft at the tea house. He arrived with 2 bodyguards, his demeanor arrogant. Well, Mrs. Vance, you've finally come to your senses. I want you and your niece to stay away from my family, I said directly. Otherwise. I pushed a folder across the table. Croft opened it. As he read, his face grew darker and darker. How did you get these? The evidence of you misappropriating pension funds. Enough to put you away for 10 years, I said coldly, and your niece's records of illegal lending practices. I'm sure the banking commission would be very interested. Sweat beaded on Croft's forehead. Mrs. Vance, we can talk about this. My terms are simple, I said, holding up 3 fingers. 1. You and Vanessa Croft will never come near my family again. 2. Derek Morgan will return all the data he stole from my son's company. 3. The East Side project, I want the 10% stake you hold. I'll buy it at market value. Croft gritted his teeth. This is highway robbery. No. This is a fair trade, I said, standing up. You have until noon tomorrow to give me your answer. Otherwise, these documents will be automatically sent to the SEC and the Banking Commission. After leaving the tea house, I went to pick up Leo and Maya from school. The two children were playing on the playground and ran over joyfully when they saw me. "Grandma, I got a perfect score on my essay today." Leo held up his notebook proudly. I opened it and read the title, My Grandma. My grandma is the best grandma in the world. She doesn't just love me, she helps lots of other kids too. My mom says my grandma has money, but I think the most valuable thing about my grandma is her heart. My eyes grew moist. This child was perhaps my only solace. "Grandma Eleanor," Maya tugged on my sleeve. "When I grow up, I want to be just like you and help people who need help." I knelt and hugged both of them. "You just need to be yourselves." Back home, I got a call from Arthur. Julian Croft had agreed to all my terms. The papers were already signed. Derek Morgan had also returned the data. "Does Michael know?" I asked. "He knows, but—" Arthur hesitated. "He said he doesn't need your charity." I gave a bitter smile. "Let him be." That evening, Jessica brought Leo over for dinner. At the table, Leo suddenly asked, "Grandma, Daddy says you don't love him anymore. Is that true?" I put down my chopsticks. "Grandma will always love your daddy, but sometimes loving someone doesn't mean enabling their mistakes." Leo nodded, as if he understood. Jessica looked at me with a hint of admiration in her eyes. "Mom, I signed the divorce papers. The hearing is next week. Will custody be an issue?" "Michael voluntarily gave it up," Jessica said with a bitter smile. "He said having a child would make it difficult for him to remarry." I shook my head, feeling a deep sorrow for my son. He had no idea what a precious thing he had lost. Before bed, I sent a text to Clara. "Next week, I need you to come with me to the orphanage to select a site for the New Hope home." She replied, "Of course, Eleanor. Also, Maya wants to invite Leo over for a playdate this weekend. Is that okay?" I looked at the message and smiled. Outside of my broken family, new connections were forming and new hope was sprouting. Perhaps this was life's answer for me. On a weekend morning, I was doing some simple stretches on the balcony when my phone vibrated. It was a message from Arthur. "Eleanor Michael just filed for personal bankruptcy at the bank." I sighed and replied, "Keep an eye on it." Turning back into the living room, I found Clara and Maya had already arrived and were setting the table with Leo. The two children were chirping like happy little sparrows. "Eleanor, breakfast is ready," Clara said with a smile, handing me a warm cup of coffee. "I just got it from the cafe downstairs, the one you like." I took the cup, feeling the warmth spread through my palm. This simple gesture of care was more comforting to me than any gourmet meal. "Grandma, try the pancakes I made." Leo proudly pointed to a plate of irregularly shaped pancakes. "It took him 3 eggs to get it right," Maya added immediately. I took a bite. They were a little burnt, but I smiled and praised him anyway. "They're delicious, much better than Grandma's." Suddenly, the doorbell rang. The security monitor showed it was Michael. I had Clara take the children out to the balcony, then opened the door. Michael looked haggard, his suit wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot. "Mom," his voice was hoarse. "Can I borrow some money?" I let him in. "How much?" $50,000, he said, looking down. "Vanessa said if I can just invest another 50,000. So she can do what?" I cut him off. "Continue to scam you?" Michael looked up sharply. "Mom, how can you say that?" "Vanessa is genuinely trying to help me." "Genuinely?" I sneered. "Then why did she disappear the moment you filed for bankruptcy?" The color drained from Michael's face. You're having me followed?" "I'm protecting you, even though you don't deserve it," I said, producing a folder. "Here is a check for $50,000. But there are conditions." Michael eagerly grabbed the folder. After reading the contents, his face turned ashen. This is outrageous." The document stated clearly that the $50,000 loan required him to sign an agreement severing all ties with Vanessa Croft and accepting financial oversight. "Sign it or don't," I said, turning to walk towards the balcony. "I'll give you 10 minutes to think about it." Through the glass door, I watched Michael pace back and forth in the living room, sometimes running his hands through his hair, sometimes punching the sofa cushions. Finally, he picked up the pen and signed. "Mom, I signed it," he said, walking to the balcony door. He suddenly saw Clara and the children. What? What are they doing here? Clara stood up awkwardly. Hello, Mr. Vance. Clara is my assistant now, I said, taking the document and checking the signature. You can go. The money will be transferred on schedule. Michael looked at Clara, then at Maya playing happily with Leo, a complex emotion flashing in his eyes. Mom, you treat a stranger better than you treat me. Clara earns her pay through her own hard work, I said, looking him straight in the eye. All you do is ask for handouts. Michael stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Leo asked timidly, Grandma, is Daddy angry again? I stroked his head. It's okay, sweetie. Daddy just needs some time to think things through. That afternoon, I took the children to the newly opened community library. Maya and Leo devoured books in the children's section, while Clara was busy discussing a partnership with the librarian for the new Hope Home. Mrs. Vance, the librarian said enthusiastically, we would be thrilled to partner with the new Hope Home and provide reading support for single-parent families. Just then, my phone rang. It was Arthur. Eleanor, Michael took the money and went straight to Vanessa Croft's apartment. Our private investigator has photos. I opened the email. The photo showed Michael and Vanessa kissing on a balcony. On the table next to them was the $50,000 check. Should we take action? Arthur asked. No, I said calmly. Let him face the consequences himself. After hanging up, I saw Clara's worried expression. Eleanor, is something wrong? It's nothing, I said, putting my phone away. By the way, is the visit to the orphanage next week all arranged? Yes, it's all set, Clara hesitated for a moment. Eleanor, if you need any help. I patted her hand. Having you here is all the help I need. When I took Leo home that evening, Jessica told me some unexpected news. Mom, Michael just came by to pack his things. He said he and Vanessa are moving to Florida to start a new business. When are they leaving? On a flight tomorrow morning, Jessica bit her lip. He said he's not coming back. I nodded. Take good care of Leo. If he's really gone, it might not be a bad thing for you. The next morning, Arthur called. Eleanor, Michael, and Vanessa were arrested at the airport. What happened? Vanessa Croft is wanted for financial fraud in several states. Michael was taken in as an accomplice. Arthur paused. Do you want me to arrange for his bail? I thought for a moment. Let him sit in a cell and cool off for a few days. 3 days later, I went to the detention center to see Michael. He looked like he had aged 10 years. The moment he saw me, he burst into tears. Mom, I was scammed. Vanessa isn't a bank executive, she's a professional con artist. And the $50,000? It's all gone, Michael sobbed, covering his face, and she took out high-interest loans in my name. I looked at the son I had once been so proud of, my heart aching but also strangely calm. Mom, save me, Michael grabbed my hand. I know I was wrong. I really know it this time. This is the last time. I stood up. Arthur will handle the bail. When you get out, report to the construction site on the east side. You'll start from the bottom. Michael was stunned. The east side. Isn't that your? Yes. My project, I said, turning to leave. Either start over through honest work or continue to be a failure. The choice is yours. Walking out of the detention center, the sunlight was so bright it hurt my eyes. Clara was waiting in the car. She handed me a bottle of water. Eleanor, are you okay? Better than I thought, I said, taking the water. By the way, the children at the orphanage have a performance next week. Remind me to bring a camera. Clara smiled and nodded. It's already on your calendar. Also, do you want to attend Leo's parent-teacher conference? Of course, I said, fastening my seatbelt. Jessica has been busy with work lately. I'll go. As the car headed towards the site for the new Hope Home, I watched the scenery fly by. I suddenly realized that life never follows the script we write for it. But perhaps every deviation is a new beginning. The performance at the orphanage was more wonderful than I could have imagined. The children's costumes were made from recycled materials, the stage built from cardboard, but their joy was the most genuine thing in the world. Leo and Maya sat on either side of me, cheering for the performers. Grandma, our class is next. Leo tugged on my hand excitedly. On stage, A group of 7- and 8-year-olds performed a short play about family. When a little girl delivered the line, "A home isn't a house, it's a place with love," my eyes welled up. Clara quietly handed me a tissue. "Are you all right, Eleanor?" I shook my head. I was just thinking about Michael when he was little. After the performance, the orphanage director gave us a tour of the building that would be converted into the new Hope Home. It was a 3-story building, old but structurally sound, with a small playground in the courtyard. "This area can be converted into an activity room. That space is suitable for a counseling office, and the kitchen needs a complete renovation," Clara said, diligently taking notes and offering professional suggestions. Watching her focused profile, I could see the bright future of the new Hope Home. "Grandma Eleanor," a little girl ran over and tugged on my sleeve. "Can I come play here too?" I knelt to be at her eye level. "Of course you can. This place is being built for you. But I don't have a mommy or daddy." The little girl looked down. "That's okay," I said, gently hugging her. "Everyone here will love you." On the way back, Leo suddenly asked, "Grandma, when is Daddy coming home?" "Soon," I said, stroking his hair. "Do you miss him?" Leo nodded, then shook his head. "I do, but Mommy said Daddy did something wrong and has to be punished." From the front seat, Clara turned around. "Leo, just because your dad made a mistake doesn't mean he doesn't love you. It's like when you get a math problem wrong. Your teacher corrects you, but she still likes you, right?" Leo thought for a moment, then smiled. "Yeah, I get it." Seeing Clara's gentle expression, a thought crossed my mind. This woman was not only capable at work, she also knew how to love a child. The next day, I went to inspect the East Side construction site. Officially, I was there to check on the project's progress. Unofficially, I was there to see Michael. After being released on bail, he had reported here, as I had instructed, to do the most basic job, inventorying building materials. The site was dusty and deafeningly loud. I found Michael in a corner. He was wearing a hard hat and gloves, sweating profusely as he counted steel rebar. He froze when he saw me, then lowered his head and continued to work. "Is it hard?" I asked. He mumbled a reply without looking up. "Leo misses you." Michael's hands paused for a moment. "I'm too ashamed to see him." "Then do something to be proud of," I said, handing him a bottle of water. "His birthday is next Sunday. I hope you'll be there." As I was leaving, the project manager, Mr. Thompson, caught up with me. "Mrs. Vance, your son is a hard worker. I thought he wouldn't last 3 days." "Give him more responsibility," I said, "but no special treatment." Mr. Thompson nodded knowingly. "Understood." Leo's birthday arrived. I prepared a small party at my home, inviting Maya, Clara, and a few of Leo's friends. Michael arrived on time, wearing a simple t-shirt and jeans, looking much better than the last time I had seen him. "Daddy!" Leo cheered, running into his arms. Michael hugged his son tightly, his voice choked with emotion. "Happy birthday, son." Watching them, I quietly wiped a tear from the corner of my eye. Clara handed me a piece of cake. "Have some, Eleanor." Maya and I made it together. The frosting was a little lopsided, but it was incredibly charming. I took a bite. It was perfectly sweet. Halfway through the party, Jessica appeared. She stood in the doorway, her expression complicated as she took in the happy scene. "Mommy!" Leo ran over and pulled her inside. "Come have some cake." Jessica hesitated, glancing at Michael. He spoke first. "Jessica, it's been a while." The atmosphere became a little awkward. Clara cleverly suggested the children go play a game on the balcony, leaving the space for us. "I heard you're working at the construction site." Jessica broke the silence. Michael nodded. "Yeah, starting from the bottom." "That's good," Jessica paused. I got promoted. Sales manager." "Congratulations," Michael said sincerely. Watching their polite exchange, I knew their marriage was beyond repair. But at least they had learned to be civil for Leo's sake. After the party, Michael stayed behind to help clean up. As he wiped down the table, he said, "Mom, Mr. Thompson at the site said he's moving me to the budgeting department next week." "That's good news," I said, feigning nonchalance. "Work hard." "Mom," Michael suddenly stopped what he was doing. I want to start over. Not for your money, but because I really want to be a decent person." I looked up at him and saw a long-lost flicker of determination in his eyes. For a moment, I saw the little boy who had once told me he wanted to be someone his mom could be proud of. "Show me," I said simply, but my heart had already softened. That night, I was looking through photos from the party, especially the one of Leo and Michael blowing out the candles together. The phone rang. It was Arthur. "Eleanor, Julian Croft is making a move." "What kind of move?" "He's using a shell corporation to buy the land adjacent to the New Hope home. He's planning to build a waste transfer station." I immediately understood his intention. This was his revenge, and he was willing to harm innocent children to get it. "Find out if there were any irregularities in the acquisition process," I said coldly, "and prepare the documents. I'm going to petition the city to rezone that land." After hanging up, I sent a text to Clara. "Be ready to go to City Hall with me tomorrow morning at 9. The next day, in a conference room at the Urban Planning Department, Julian Croft and I faced off once again. He smiled insincerely. "Well, Mrs. Vance, what a coincidence. I didn't know you were also interested in waste management." "I'm interested in protecting children," I said, turning on the projector and displaying the designs for the New Hope home, building your transfer station here. "You know exactly what the health impact on these children will be." Croft shrugged. "It's just business. May the best person win." "Is it?" I switched the slide, displaying evidence of the various violations in his acquisition process. "Is this also just business?" The meeting turned into a heated debate. In the end, the mayor made the final decision. That parcel of land is better suited for educational purposes. "Mr. Croft, the city will buy back the land at market value." Croft stormed out of the room. As he passed me, he whispered, "Eleanor Vance, this isn't over." Walking out of City Hall, Clara asked worriedly, "Eleanor, do you think he'll—" "Don't be afraid." I patted her hand. "The good will always prevail." The following days were busy but fulfilling. The renovation of the New Hope home progressed smoothly. Michael excelled at the construction site and was promoted to team leader. Leo and Maya performed together in a school play and won the award for Best Duo. But beneath the calm surface, an undercurrent was stirring. One night, I received an urgent call from Arthur. "Eleanor, there's been an accident. Michael was injured at the construction site and has been taken to the hospital." When I arrived at the hospital, Michael was already out of surgery. The doctor said a falling piece of equipment had injured his leg, but thankfully, it wasn't life-threatening. In the hospital room, Michael lay pale in his bed. He managed a weak smile when he saw me. "Mom, I'm okay." Mr. Thompson stood by, blaming himself. "It's all my fault. I didn't check the crane equipment properly." "The equipment was tampered with," Michael said suddenly. "I saw them. It was Derek Morgan's men." Arthur and I exchanged a look. Derek Morgan, Julian Croft's lackey. It seemed they hadn't given up. "You just focus on getting better," I said, tucking in Michael's blanket. "Leave the rest to me." Walking out of the room, I dialed a number I hadn't called in a long time. "Chief Williams, it's Eleanor Vance. There's something I need your help with." 3 days later, the local news broke a major story. Derek Morgan had been arrested in connection with several cases of corporate espionage and racketeering. Julian Croft had also been brought in for questioning. All of it had nothing to do with me. It was simply the police chief returning a favor from years ago when I helped him crack a major financial fraud case. After Michael was discharged, I had him stay in the guest room at my apartment. Every morning, Clara would bring Maya over for breakfast before taking the children to school. Leo was ecstatic, constantly sticking by his dad and little sister Maya. One weekend morning, I was watching Michael patiently teach the 2 children how to play chess while Clara prepared fruit in the kitchen. For a moment, I had the illusion that this was what a real family was supposed to feel like. "Mom," Michael suddenly looked up. "I'm thinking of trying to get back together with Jessica. Do you think it's possible?" I shook my head. "You can't unbreak a mirror. But you can be good friends and co-parent Leo." Michael looked down, disappointed. Clara came over with the fruit platter. "Mr. Vance, you can't force matters of the heart. The most important thing now is to become a better person." Michael looked at Clara and nodded thoughtfully. That evening, I got a call from Jessica. "Mom, "I've started dating someone new. He's a colleague from my company. I'd like for you to meet him." I was a little surprised, but I agreed. "Of course. Why don't you bring him over for dinner this weekend?" After hanging up, I walked out onto the balcony. The night sky was full of stars, and a cool breeze rustled through the leaves. Life is like the night sky, I thought. There is darkness, but there are always stars shining. Jessica's new boyfriend was named David, a technical manager at her company. On Saturday night, he stood at my door holding a fruit basket, looking slightly nervous. "Good evening, Mrs. Vance," he said with a bow. "Jessica talks about you all the time." I sized up the man in his early 30s. He had a crew cut, a square jaw, and clear eyes. When we shook hands, his palm was calloused. "Come in, dinner is almost ready." In the kitchen, Clara was finishing the last dish. Ever since I discovered her culinary talents, I had handed over the weekend kitchen duties to her. Maya and Leo were building with Legos in the living room. To my surprise, Michael had asked to be there to meet his ex-wife's new boyfriend. The atmosphere at the dinner table was a bit delicate, but generally pleasant. David was well-spoken and respectful, attentive to Jessica without being overbearing, and natural with Leo. "Uncle David, do you know how to fix computers?" Leo asked suddenly. "I do," David answered with a smile. "But I'm even better at fixing bicycles." "Really? My bike chain keeps falling off." Watching them chat happily, I saw a genuine glow of happiness in Jessica's eyes. Michael ate quietly, chiming in occasionally, but at least he was polite. After dinner, David offered to help with the dishes, but Clara waved him off. "You all go talk. I've got this." Jessica took David out to the balcony to look at the view, while Michael took the kids to the playroom. I stood in the kitchen doorway, watching Clara's busy back. "Thank you for all your hard work." "It's no trouble at all," Clara said, drying her hands. "Eleanor, David seems like a good man." "Yes, a lot better than Vanessa Croft," I said half-jokingly. Clara smiled. "And Michael's behavior was very mature tonight. He's growing up," I sighed. "Yes, but some lessons come at too high a price." After our guests had left, Michael came to talk to me. "Mom, I want to move out. Have you found a place?" "Yes, the company provides employee housing." He paused. "I want to really stand on my own 2 feet for once." I nodded. "You're always welcome to come back and see Leo." The next day, I took Leo and Maya to the New Hope home, which was still under renovation. Workers were painting the walls, and sunlight streamed through the newly installed floor-to-ceiling windows, filling the room with light. "Grandma, this place is so beautiful." Leo ran around the empty activity room, his voice echoing. Maya pointed to a small room. "Grandma Eleanor, can we put books in here?" "Of course, sweetie," I said, stroking her head. "There will be lots and lots of books here." Clara walked over with a blueprint. "Eleanor, the children's activity area will be finished next week, a week ahead of schedule." "Thank you for your hard work," I said, looking around. "This place will help so many children. Just like you helped us," Clara finished softly, her eyes full of gratitude. As we were leaving, we ran into the mayor and his entourage, who were there for an inspection. The mayor shook my hand warmly. "Mrs. Vance, your philanthropy is truly admirable. The New Hope home will be a model for our city." Reporters crowded around us, cameras flashing. The bright lights made me blink. Leo held my hand tightly. "Grandma, are you famous?" "No, sweetie. Grandma is just an ordinary person," I said, bending down to speak to him. "I just did what I thought was right." That night, after the news aired, my phone was flooded with congratulatory messages. The most surprising one was a text from Michael. "Mom, I'm proud of you." Those 5 simple words made tears stream down my face. A week later, the New Hope home held its grand opening ceremony. I made sure to invite Jessica and David, and Michael came from the construction site as well. At the ribbon-cutting ceremony, as Clara and I pulled the red silk ribbon, the crowd erupted in applause. "I declare the New Hope home officially open," the mayor announced. "This is our city's first non-profit organization dedicated to providing comprehensive support for children from single-parent families." After the ceremony, guests toured the various facilities: the counseling rooms, the after-school tutoring center, the parent-child activity area. The small library every corner was a testament to Clara's and my hard work. In the children's play area, I saw Leo and Maya playing with several children from the orphanage, their laughter echoing through the room. Michael and Jessica stood nearby. Though they kept their distance, their gazes both followed Leo with warmth. Eleanor, Clara came over. The list of the first group of families has been finalized. We have 12 children moving in next week. Good, I nodded. Are all the new counselors in place? Yes, all of them have degrees in psychology or education, Clara said, flipping through her folder. Oh, and Michael recommended someone the wife of one of his colleagues at the construction site. She's a single mother with a teaching certificate. I raised an eyebrow. Did you interview her? Yes. She's very down to earth, and her qualifications are excellent. Then hire her, I smiled. No harm in hiring someone you know if they're the right fit. As the ceremony was winding down, an unexpected guest arrived, Julian Croft. He was dressed to the nines, holding a bouquet of flowers, and walking towards me with a broad smile. Eleanor, congratulations. I thought I'd come and make a small donation. He handed me a check for $50,000. The crowd gasped, and the reporters immediately turned their cameras on us. I took the check and spoke into the microphone. Thank you for your donation, Mr. Croft. However, the New Hope Home has a policy that all donations must have their sources publicly disclosed. Mr. Croft, is this donation from Croft Enterprises, or is it a personal one? Julian Croft's smile froze. It was common knowledge that he was under investigation and his corporate accounts were frozen. This is a personal donation, of course, he said, forcing a smile. Then please provide your personal tax records, I said with a pleasant smile. We are very particular about the legality of our funding. Julian Croft's face turned livid. He snatched the check back and scurried away. The entire room burst into knowing laughter. After the event, Clara said worriedly, Eleanor, do you think he'll retaliate? He has enough of his own problems to deal with, I said, patting her hand. Don't worry. That evening, I held a small celebration dinner at my home. Clara, Maya, Jessica, David, Michael, and Leo were all there. The atmosphere was warm and joyful. Looking at this strange, blended family, I suddenly realized that blood is not the only thing that defines a family. Love and responsibility are what truly matter. Grandma, Leo held up his juice glass. I'd like to make a toast to you. Everyone laughed and raised their glasses. Michael stood up, his expression solemn. Mom, thank you for giving me a chance to start over. Jessica also stood up. Mom, thank you for always being so patient with my selfishness. Clara and Maya didn't say anything, but their eyes were shining with gratitude. My hand trembled slightly as I raised my glass. Thank you all for teaching me what a real family is. In that moment, all the scheming, the testing, the disappointment melted away, leaving only the purest warmth and affection. Before bed, I habitually checked my phone. There was a message from Arthur. Eleanor, the court has made its final ruling. The restructuring plan for Michael's company has been approved. He can retain 30% of the shares and start again. I replied, Tell him. He earned this himself. Putting down my phone, I walked out onto the balcony. The night sky was full of stars, like countless eyes witnessing the joys and sorrows of the world. I remembered my husband's last words to me. Eleanor, no matter what happens, always believe in the power of love. Oh, Frank, I whispered. I think I finally understand. The morning sun streamed through a gap in the curtains, waking me early. I saw over a dozen missed calls on my phone, all from Michael. Just as I was about to call him back, Arthur's number flashed on the screen. Eleanor, there's been trouble. Michael's been taken into custody by the police. I shot up in bed. What happened? Julian Croft reported him for commercial fraud. They say the evidence is irrefutable. Arthur's voice was tense. This time, it looks bad. I quickly got dressed. Get the best criminal defense attorney you can find. I'm on my way to the police station. At the station's waiting area, I found a pale-faced Jessica and a worried-looking David. The moment Jessica saw me, she broke down. Mom, they're saying Michael defrauded a bank of $300,000. He could get 10 years. Stay calm. Let's get the facts first, I said, patting her shoulder. I turned to David. Where's Leo? He's at school. Clara went to pick him and Maya up, David replied. I nodded to myself. This young man was reliable in a crisis. The lawyer arrived quickly. After speaking with Michael for half an hour, he came out to report. It's complicated. Michael did forge some documents to get a loan, but all the money went into Vanessa Croft's account. Now Vanessa is missing, and all the evidence points to him. Julian Croft is behind this, I said, clenching my fist. Is there any chance of bail? Difficult. The lawyer shook his head. The amount is too large, and they have him dead to rights. Just then, a police officer approached. Family of Michael Vance? He's asking to see his mother. In the interrogation room, Michael was in handcuffs, unshaven, his eyes bloodshot. Mom. His voice was a raw whisper. I really didn't know those documents were illegal. Vanessa said it was all standard procedure. When will you learn to take responsibility for your own choices? I said, forcing my voice to stay even. If Vanessa told you to jump off a bridge, would you do it? Michael lowered his head. It's too late for that now. No, it's not. I leaned forward. Tell me the absolute truth. Don't leave a single detail out. It turned out Vanessa, claiming to have an inside track at the bank, had convinced Michael to forge construction contracts and financial statements to secure a loan. Once the money was in his account, she had him transfer it to her for a high-yield investment. She said the money was for one of Julian Croft's deals, Michael suddenly remembered. And once, I overheard her on the phone. She mentioned the East Side project. My heart went cold. This was Julian Croft's master plan, killing two birds with one stone. He got his revenge on me and eliminated a competitor for the East Side project at the same time. After leaving the police station, I immediately called a team meeting. Arthur, Clara, Jessica, and David were all there. I even had Leo and Maya brought over, though I tried to shield them from the worry. The situation is clear, I said, pointing to a diagram on a whiteboard. Croft used Vanessa to manipulate Michael for both money and revenge. To save Michael, we need to find Vanessa and the money. Eleanor, Clara spoke up suddenly, I might have a lead. It turned out that while organizing the foundation's donation list, Clara had noticed a $5,000 donation from a Miss Croft. The phone number listed was disconnected, but bank records showed the money came from an overseas account. When was this? I asked urgently. Last Wednesday. I immediately contacted a friend at Interpol to trace the account. At the same time, Arthur prepared a new bail application. 3 days later, we had a breakthrough. My friend at Interpol confirmed the account belonged to Vanessa Croft's aunt. There had been a recent wire transfer of $50,000 to an account in Thailand. She's probably in Thailand, I told the lawyer. Can we use this to request a postponement of the trial? It's worth a shot. In court, our lawyer argued forcefully that the key witness, Vanessa Croft, was a fugitive and requested a postponement. The judge eventually agreed, granting a 2-month delay. Michael had dodged a prison sentence for now, but he was forbidden from leaving the country and had to report to the police station weekly. Walking out of the courthouse, he wept like a child. Mom, I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry yet, I said sternly. This isn't over. Back home, Leo ran into Michael's arms. Daddy, I missed you so much. Watching them embrace, Jessica cried silently. David thoughtfully handed her a tissue and said quietly, I'll go pick up Maya. You all need some time as a family. The young man's grace impressed me. Perhaps Jessica had truly found the right person this time. That night, I called a family meeting, including Clara and Maya. Michael recounted the entire scam in detail. Clara took notes, Jessica asked clarifying questions, and even Leo listened quietly. So, I summarized, to prove Michael was set up, we need 3 things. Proof of the connection between Vanessa and Julian Croft, the final destination of the money, and the original contracts. Clara suddenly said, Mr. Vance, do you have copies of the documents you signed? Michael shook his head. They were all on my company computer, which is impounded. No, Jessica interjected. You forgot. You always back everything up on a USB drive. Michael slapped his forehead. You're right. The drive is in my desk drawer at home. We rushed over to Jessica's apartment and found the drive. We plugged it into a laptop. Sure enough, It contained scanned copies of every document, including the suspicious contracts Vanessa had made him sign. "These terms are obviously predatory," Arthur said after examining them. "A professional would spot the illegal clauses immediately. We can argue Michael, as a layman, was deliberately misled." Over the next 2 weeks, we launched a multi-pronged attack. Arthur prepared the legal case. Clara used her IT skills to trace the money. I stayed in contact with my Interpol friend, and Michael cooperated with the police investigation. Our efforts paid off. Through a white hat hacker contact, Clara managed to trace the funds to a shell corporation owned by Julian Croft in the Cayman Islands. "I'm not sure if this is admissible as evidence," Clara said hesitantly. "It's enough for the police to open a formal investigation into Croft," I said, and immediately called Chief Williams. At the same time, we received good news from Thailand. Vanessa Croft had been arrested in Phuket and was being extradited. With all the evidence laid out before him, Julian Croft finally panicked. He offered a settlement through his lawyer. He would drop the charges and pay damages in exchange for immunity from prosecution for incitement. "No deal," I said flatly. "I want him to pay the price." In the end, faced with irrefutable evidence, both Julian Croft and Vanessa Croft were formally indicted. Michael, because he had acted without malicious intent and had been deceived, was sentenced to 300 hours of community service. On the day of the verdict, Michael cried in the courtroom, "Mom, thank you, I swear. I'll be a new man." We walked out of the courthouse into the bright sunshine. Jessica was holding Leo's hand. David was holding Maya's. Clara was carrying a briefcase, and Michael was pushing my wheelchair. I insisted on using it for dramatic effect. Our entire group stood on the steps like a real family, surrounded by a throng of reporters. "Mrs. Vance, are you satisfied with the verdict? Mr. Vance, do you have anything you'd like to say? What are the next plans for the New Hope home?" I raised a hand for silence. Today, justice has been served. But more importantly, my family has been tested and has emerged stronger. As for the future, I looked at each person beside me. Michael will be taking over the operational management of the New Hope home. Clara is being promoted to Secretary General of the Foundation. And as for Jessica and David, I paused. I look forward to hearing their good news soon. The reporters, sensing a scoop, immediately turned their cameras to Jessica and David. Jessica blushed and looked down, but David put his arm around her shoulder. "We're getting married next month." Leo cheered. "I get to be the ring bearer, and Maya can be the flower girl." Amid the joyful chaos, Michael suddenly knelt before me. "Mom, thank you for not giving up on me." I helped him to his feet. Silly boy. A mother never gives up on her child. David and Jessica's wedding was held on a sunny Saturday. Leo and Maya, dressed in adorable formal wear, walked down the aisle as the ring bearer and flower girl. Michael, representing the bride's family, sat in the front row, his expression calm and composed. I wore an elegant dress and sat in the family section, watching Jessica walk slowly towards David on her father's arm. She looked radiant in a simple, beautiful wedding gown, her face glowing with happiness. "She looks so beautiful," Clara whispered beside me. I patted her hand. "Yours will be the next wedding we attend." Clara blushed. "Eleanor? I'm not." "Just kidding," I smiled, changing the subject. "How are the preparations for the New Hope Home's open house next week?" "Everything's ready," Clara said, showing me photos on her phone. "The first 12 children have moved in, and the feedback has been wonderful." After the wedding, Michael came to talk to me. "Mom, I want to move into the New Hope home." "Why?" "My community service requires me to work there 40 hours a week. It would be more convenient," he paused. "And I want to do something meaningful with my life." I saw the resolve in his eyes and nodded. "Good." The next day, Clara and I helped Michael move into the employee dorms at the New Hope home. The room was simple but clean, and the window looked out over the children's playground. "This is nice," Michael said, setting down his bags. "I can see the children's smiling faces every day." A small, shy boy peeked into the room. "Mr. Vance, can you help me fix my bike?" Michael immediately stood up. "Of course. Come on, show me." Watching them walk away together, Clara said softly, "Eleanor, Michael has really changed." Yes, I sighed. Sometimes, a person has to hit rock bottom before they can start to climb back up. The day of the open house arrived. Representatives from the government, corporations, and the media crowded into the facility to see the miracle that had been accomplished in just 1 month. Michael, as the operations manager, wore a simple white shirt and slacks and confidently introduced the various facilities and services. He was professional and passionate, a world away from the arrogant young man he used to be. Our goal is not just to provide material assistance, but more importantly, to rebuild the mental health and self-confidence of children from single-parent families, he said, pointing to a photo wall. This is our wishing tree. Every child can write down a wish, and volunteers help make it come true. The wall was covered with colorful notes. I want to learn to draw. I wish my mom wasn't so tired. I want an encyclopedia. In the most prominent spot was a note written by Leo and Maya together. We wish all the kids could be happy. After the tour, the mayor personally presented Michael with an award for outstanding contribution to community service. From the audience, Jessica, David, Leo, Maya, and I applauded wildly, while Clara secretly wiped away a tear. That night, we held a small celebration in the New Hope Homes cafeteria. The children put on a talent show they had organized themselves. Michael was pulled on stage to sing a song. He was terribly off-key, but the room was filled with joy. Eleanor, Clara handed me a cup of tea. The foundation's budget for the second half of the year is done. Please take a look when you have a chance. You have my full confidence. Your decision is final, I said, taking the cup. By the way, Maya's birthday is next month. What are you planning? She wants to go to the new zoo, Clara said, looking a little troubled. But that's a Saturday, the same day as the open house. I'll arrange it, I said, patting her hand. You and Maya deserve a perfect birthday. It was late. The guests had left. I stood at the entrance of the New Hope home, watching Michael see off the last guest. He leaned against the doorframe, tired but satisfied. Tired? I walked over. Yeah. But fulfilled. He smiled. Mom, one of the parents told me today that since coming here, her daughter has finally started smiling again. I reached up and straightened his collar. You've done well. Better than you know. Michael suddenly hugged me. Mom, thank you. Thank you for not giving up on me. I patted his back, just as I had when he was a little boy. Silly boy. On the drive home, Leo fell asleep in my arms. From the passenger seat, Jessica turned around. Mom, your birthday is next week. How do you want to celebrate? Something simple is fine, I said, watching the city lights flash by. Just a family dinner. No way, David chimed in. It's your 60th. We have to celebrate properly. Exactly, Jessica agreed. Let's have a party at the New Hope home and invite all the children. I just smiled and shook my head at them. On my birthday, the New Hope home was beautifully decorated. Not only were my family and friends there, but also dozens of children and their parents, and representatives from the families we had helped. Michael emceed the event. Clara coordinated everything. Jessica and David greeted guests, and Leo and Maya played games with the other children. I was surrounded by a sea of people, accepting their heartfelt wishes. The most surprising part of the evening was an awards ceremony. They had created an Eleanor Vance Philanthropy Award, and I was to be its first recipient. Mom, Michael said from the stage, you taught me what true love and responsibility are. You deserve this award more than anyone. I walked onto the stage and looked at all the familiar faces in the audience. My redeemed son, my daughter-in-law who had found true love, my reliable son-in-law, the loyal and capable Clara, my sweet grandchildren, and all the families who had found hope again because of our work. Thank you, everyone. My voice was choked with emotion. This award doesn't belong to me alone. It belongs to every single one of us here today. Love is not about giving, but about sharing. Family is not about blood, but about connection. The applause was deafening. Leo and Maya ran up to give me flowers. The cameras flashed, capturing this perfect moment of happiness. After the party, I walked alone in the garden of the New Hope home. The night was dark, the stars were bright, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves. Clara quietly approached. Eleanor, you must be tired. Let me take you home. Let's sit for a while, I said, patting the bench beside me. Clara, there's something I want to discuss with you. Of course. I'm getting older, and I want to start handing over the reins of the foundation, I said, looking into her eyes. Would you be willing to take over as chairman? Clara's eyes widened. Eleanor, I couldn't possibly. I'm not capable. You are more capable than you think, I said, taking her hand. Not right away, of course. I'll give you 2 years to prepare. Clara's eyes welled with tears. Eleanor, I don't know what to say. Just say yes. I smiled. Yes, she nodded, her voice thick with emotion. I'll work hard. I won't let you down. In the distance, Michael and Leo were chasing each other across the lawn. Jessica and David were walking hand in hand, and Maya was crouching by a flower bed, watching a butterfly. The night air was filled with the faint scent of flowers. I took a deep breath, savoring this hard-won peace and happiness. At 60 years old, I should have been settling into a quiet retirement. But I knew that our story was just beginning.